And we start with a live look from Vatican City, where Pope Francis lies in state inside St. Peter's Basilica. You can see the long line of thousands of mourners here waiting to pay their respect to the late pontiff. The Pope died Monday morning after suffering a stroke and heart failure at the age of 88. And this is from earlier today when his body made its final journey to the papal residence to the Basilica in a procession led by cardinals. You see there in red, people waiting in line. They talked about what the Pope means to them.
He's like a member of the family, isn't he? Somebody very close to our hearts, somebody who made the church very accessible to everybody and inclusive to everybody, and yeah, like a family member for us. Yeah.
Pope Francis was an ordinary, beautiful man who lived his life as a follower of Jesus in his most sincere way, in the most beautiful way, and he taught us all how to be Christians and to be human, and that's what we are so happy about. So we'll follow him. And we want Pope Francis II now.
The Pope lies in state through Friday night. His funeral is now set for Saturday morning. A lot of world leaders plan to be there. The White House says President Donald Trump will leave Washington on Friday to travel to Vatican City. CBS News contributor John Allen joins us now from Rome. John, thanks for being with us here today. What is the overall sentiment from people waiting to see the pontiff in these final days of mourning?
Hi, Amugo. Well, you are absolutely right to talk about the incredibly long lines we are seeing here of people filing into St. Peter's Square for those fleeting seconds they will have before the remains of Pope Francis to say their final farewells. But you know what I'm struck by, Mugo? It's even though this is in some ways a very sad occasion, obviously the Pope has died, nevertheless, there isn't a terribly somber and mournful spirit among the crowd here. Instead, I'm struck by how relatively upbeat they seem to be, and I think that reflects who Pope Francis was. This was not a pope of death. This was a pope of life. This was a pope who inspired hope and cheer and the capacity to dream for something better in countless millions of people around the world. And I think that spirit, the Pope of Hope, I think that spirit is very much present in this crowd here today in St. Peter's Square too, Mugo.
Yeah, and John, speaking of that crowd, we know as the Pope's casket made its way through the square, the crowd started clapping. You talk about this Pope of Hope. How do you think he'll be remembered among Catholics?
Well, look, Mogo, you and I as journalists, we spend a lot of our time covering bad news, don't we, right?
Yeah.
We talk about natural disasters and wars and, the heartbreak of psoriasis and everything that seems to be going wrong. But in the middle of all of that, I think what people will remember was that Pope Francis was this commanding and I would say even singular voice for the voiceless, on behalf of all of the people who were the victims of war and of climate change and of closed borders to migrants and refugees and of poverty. He was a man who stood for the underdog, and he sort of took the world and shook it and forced it to pay attention. I think that was his unique gift, and it is probably his legacy, among other things, to whoever is going to have to step into those awfully big shoes he leaves behind, Mugo.
Yeah, some big shoes indeed. John, what else are we learning about plans for his funeral this weekend?
Well, what we know is that the funeral liturgy, which is going to take place in St. Peter's Square, that is the outdoor space to accommodate the oceanic crowd that is expected. We're talking about at least 250,000 people, maybe more. It's going to be led by Italian Cardinal Giovanni Battista Re. He is the Dean of the College of Cardinals and a very important figure because he is also the man who was presiding over the closed-door meetings of all the cardinals in these days when they're sort of grinding the political sausage leading up to the conclave. And then, as you mentioned, we also know that a cavalcade of VIPs from around the world will be on hand. You mentioned President Donald Trump and the First Lady, Melania Trump, will be here. We understand that President Javier Milei of the Pope's native country, Argentina, will be here. President Lula da Silva of Brazil, President Emmanuel Macron of France, President Andrzej Duda of Poland, Prime Minister Keir Starmer from the UK, President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen. Prince William of the UK is expected to be here, the King and Queen of Spain, and it goes on and on. And I think what that reflects, Mugo, and what we dare not forget, and we will see it in very vivid form on Saturday, is that the papacy is an absolutely singular, unique office on the global stage. Yes, the Pope is the leader of 1.3 billion Catholics, but in a way, he is the leader of all people of faith and of all people of conscience on the global stage. To put it differently, if we didn't have the office of the papacy, we would absolutely have to invent it, or at least we would very badly want to, Mugo.
Yeah, I think you're completely correct there, John. I am not Catholic, but I'm still in awe of all of this and so much respect for the Pope as well. John Island, thank you so much for joining us on 24/7 today, and thank you for your reporting.